cannot believe they have me doing this. I swear, dear viewers, I'm not deceased. I've just had health complications, left, right, and sometimes center, but for the final, rather desolate race of the season, we head to the Autodrome, Monza Autodrome. Just say it in English, Riker, you're not Italian enough to do it that way. No, we, did not start the broadcast early. Yeah, no, we did not start the broadcast early. No, this is the full field, 7 cars. Not a single one of them wants to be the first car onto the front straightaway, either. The only reason that I'm here is simply because technically the championship is on the line. Just, you know, mathematically. Logically speaking, what really are the odds that Red One doesn't get at least second and third? Because that's the onus here. That's the basis for this championship fight. If Red One wins either race, it's automatically his. If Red One just gets second in both races, it's automatically his. The only way Red One doesn't automatically win this championship, pretty much, is if he finishes off of the podium. And with 7 cars, and if I'm going to be brutally honest, 2 of them with no shot of even looking at 5th place, that's not going to happen. Red One's only competition is his own team. And while they may not be in orange Formula 1 cars, I have a sneaking suspicion that they're going to be doing team orders anyway. Red One's basically getting a guided tour around the circuit by his own teammate Jonas Irkkonen, as the first laps of this qualifying session are about to be clocked in. I don't know how we end up with only 8 cars. I really don't. Not even 8. It would have been 8 if I were going to race, but don't expect me to be the most talkative guy today. That's just not going to happen. Currently, only 5 lap times have been put in at the moment. I think Yoshi and Knickel made some form of mistake on their laps. What the heck are those tactics, for one? It's like Knickel's gonna cross for his first valid lap. Way off of Eunice, but a half a second clear of Deshaun Davis. I know, I don't think it would be his first start of the season. I think I just missed the ones he has made up to this point, but another start racked up for Kyle Voiles, even though he is DNQ'd from every race I've commentated prior to this, because The last time I was able to commentate a race, it was week 7, and we were having pre-qualifying sessions. And at the very least, although this is going to be, not mincing words, probably relatively boring, just because there's only 7 people here, Monza will do some of the work, because Monza always creates a little chaos, but it can only do so much when there are 7 cars and only 5 of them are actually competitive. As Boryoshi punctuates that by running a competitive lap time. Clearly nothing is touching Rodrigo's time at the moment, but 47.2, an entire second and change over the car that's currently in his wheel tracks. Or trying desperately to stay in them anyway. Red 1 is 4/10 up, but if he's only 4/10 up, and therefore 7/10 down on the car he's drafting, not a great sign. AJ improves, but he does not re-overtake Yoshi. He's a 10th off exactly, basically. 47.7 for Hamza, but it's just simply not enough. Boryoshi attacks the Ascari chicane. He needs to find just over 1/3 of a second to jump over his fellow FR Racing driver, Jonas Itkonen. Yeah, basically what it amounts to is I just felt really tired over the last, month. Really okay. I wasn't actually tired last week. I would have been perfectly able to commentate last week, but there wasn't a race. Also, he did in fact find 3/10. He found 4, I think, which will get him over Eunice. But yeah, I just had no energy and no ability to control when I was tired and when I was capable of going to sleep, so it became difficult to commentate when my brain was running out of gas at 6 in the evening, and I have to commentate from 7 to 8:45 in my time zone. I've gotten it fixed, obviously, for the most part, but this race leaves me wishing that I hadn't. Itkonen does respond to poor Yoshi. He will find another 2 or so tenths and get back above Yoshi. Red 1's on another time. Nope, this is an outlap. I am dumb. Rodrigo is sitting in the pits, confident that his 47.2 will be enough to grab him a pole position, and, well, I don't necessarily think it's wrong. Or that I don't think he is wrong. Red 1 is trying to slow down. He's just going to jam the brakes to allow his teammate to go through first. But I think doing that has just, I think he's now out of slipstream range of Yoshi. He slowed down too much. That's also the end of the session. Boryoshi improved, barely comes up short against Itkonen, and Itkonen's own time is not going to be valid. We'll put our eyes on the Supra of AJ Knickel to see if he can find 7 entire tenths to try and at least contest the Aston Martin. He's not going to be contesting Regal Auto in the GTR. Not here, not today. But maybe he can at least get close. Okay, he's a half a second down going to the final sector. I don't think he's going to get close. and a sketchy hop over the one of the many angry curbs at Variante Ascari didn't help his time. Kaneko will wrap up the lap, but I feel like it's mostly out of formality. Deshaun Davis is also making his way onto the final straightaway. And he would have to find a second and a half to get over AJ. And once Deshaun Davis reaches the start-finish line, the final countdown. I was about to say the fall qualifying. The final qualifying session of this ARC Group 3 Masters season is at an end. There is no improvement in that lap time for Deshaun Davis. So we have our final starting grid set, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's also our finishing order. Deshaun's AI just spin the tires? Goes to show you how stable those Porsches are, am I right? That's a joke. You can laugh. Alright, there, qualifying is officially at an end. What I think is depressing, and this ties into the other announcement that one of the announcements I was going to make, is that if I was allowed to just take the track, just start the race in 8th and be given 8th place points, that'd still be NFR's best finish of the season. Yeah, for those who are not in the know, or anybody who just didn't really care when the announcement was delivered earlier, Nuclear Fusion Racing has closed its doors going into the next season of GT7 competition. It's probably not the only team facing such a fate. Why am I still at this screen? I'm assuming I'm going to get a spectate option when the server actually loads in, right? That's not supposed to happen. Do I even bother bringing up the thing? I feel like it's just being canceled. Well, we're doing the formation lap. So it kind of looks like we're just going to ignore that? Okay, no, we are not. I was about to say, I don't think we're going to resort back to Gran Turismo 2 with this one. Not even that, because the first time Monza was included in a game, even it was in a game that had, that was Force and Habit. Even that was in a game that had more than 6 cars in a race. I think GT5 was the first one to have Monza, and I think that game even had 16 car races. How do we have the lowest driver count possible without canceling the race, and we still have managed to have connection and lobby issues? How did we do this, people? Is Eunice coming back? There he is. All right, take two. I don't want to bring up the chat. Let me get those settings state anyway. All right, well, now the actual formation lap begins. Now with all 7 cars actually included in it. I don't know all the exact computations for this championship battle. I don't even just remember the points scored per position off the top of my head. I was told the baseline was Red One needs, well, he needs to finish 2nd or better here and 3rd or better in, or no, that's what he needs, and if that happens and Rodrigo wins them both, then Rodrigo wins the title. I think. But basically all Red One needs to do, other than whatever the heck just happened there, anyway, I'm assuming that was probably some kind of lag. Couldn't really tell from the camera's perspective. Luckily that damage will repair itself before we get anywhere near the start-finish line. So long as Red One takes 2nd place in both the sprint and feature, he wins the title. If Rodrigo, I think, fails to win either one, then Red One wins the title. Unless Red One finishes, like, terribly. But I'm pretty sure, lowballing it, the lowest either of these 2 cars could really finish is 5th. Like, I hate to be that guy and be like, oh, Deshaun and Kyle Boyle still need to be here. Not that it wouldn't go that far to say that, but ultimately speaking, the pace difference, just the skill gap between our top 4 and the bottom 2. AJ kind of sits somewhere in the middle. Some days he does keep up with the FR and KVM cars. Other days he flounders around in the midfield. With the top speed deficit as well, I have a sneaking suspicion the Supra will probably be leaning towards falling off of these 4. I don't really know. The Aston Martin and the GTR have insane straight line performance. The Supra, I think, is like middle of the road, but you need more than middle of the road to dominate at Monza. But our Our field of 7, our PS2 game-sized field, makes its way out of Parabolica, and whenever Rodrigo Regalado is ready, we will take the green flag for technically the second to last time this season. And we are going green. I should not have held my breath for that joke. We are away. That camera hung on for way too long. It is literally single file on the way down to T1. AJ is actually in last going into T1 because he did not fall in line. They're going to contest the lead at turn 1 and 2, but it looks like the GTR is going to stay ahead. We'll see. It looks like Hamza got the better exit, though. We'll see if he can challenge him. We go through Curva Grande. Up to, I forget the name of the second chicane. It's like the Regatta or something? No, that's Imola. I don't know. The second chicane, the Devil chicane, as I usually call it. That chicane is awful in my experiences, but I never liked Monza anyway, so... Big sideways moment for Ridwan over the outside curb at the second Lesmo. So Regalado is going to get a decent bit of buffer heading towards the Scari. AJ is back up to 5th, after being in last for a moment at the start of the race. But nothing really doing on the first lap. Ridwan tried to make a run at Rodrigo at turn 1, as well as the second chicane, but there was nothing in it. Yoshi is right on Ridwan's diffuser as we brake for turn 1, but I'd be very surprised if we see Yoshi doing much to threaten Ridwan's position. We might even see some bump drafting. Oh, that's a bit of sand in Ridwan's shoes, but he didn't actually lose too much time to Rodrigo, despite going a little wide at the second chicane. He did, however, lose a decent chunk going a little wide at the first Lesmo, and even more getting sideways on the second one. Here comes Yoshi. We'll see if he makes a play on his team owner. He does not commit to anything. He will back out. I'm Canadian. Oh, Yoshi is wide. He'll keep the car going the right way. The in-game stewards are not having it. I was gonna say, a dramatic reveal. You know, it can always take a minute for the game to determine whether or not you've done something that deserves being penalized. Gap is over a second, and technically growing, but not really a ton that you'd really notice. Ridwan missed his braking point for good measure. Even now, it's like, there's no way you get it stopped from the 100. And there was, in fact, no way he could get it stopped from the 100. So he loses even more time to Rodrigo in that. And and I didn't even notice he did anything too egregious, but now Red One gets himself a half-second decel. Which will, you know, extend Rodrigo's lead further still. Somehow, oh yeah, because Eunice pit. And there is Kevin Kepley, a bit late for the first half, but he'll be allowed to start the second race. Oh, AJ's racked up a whole second and a half. So Aston Martin's clear their decel penalties. AJ gets smacked with his 1.5 seconds, and that almost brings him within distance of Deshaun Davis and the Porsche. Eunice pit at his earliest convenience. I think I saw on the leaderboard that he started on the mediums and got off of the mediums as soon as humanly possible. Yeah, the difference between Deshaun and AJ is now only a second and change after the decel penalty. And the deficit between Ridwan and Rodrigo is almost 2.5. But of course, Ridwan need not worry about it too much. He still just needs to get second in both races, and he gets the title anyway. Heading off of Parabolica, we will be soon surpassing the third distance mark. I know it's not necessarily a third of the way, considering it's technically a 14-lap race. Not Kepley is gone. AJ's picked up another decel. He's moved the lead back to 3 seconds over Davis, but it's going to get reduced again soon. And they'll give it long, I'm sure it can be up to these two. The pace difference, I imagine, is probably just that severe. To say, Monza is definitely a choice for a final round of the season. I don't know how to feel about it. I guess it doesn't really have a ton of significance since it's not exactly a packed crowd anyway, but Rodrigo's advantage continues to extend, now at 3.5 seconds almost, as we start, well, the 6th green flag lap anyway. I have nothing to say. There's nothing to comment on. There is no commentary to be done. There is nothing. This isn't even necessarily the pay dirt race. The real, I guess, payoff comes at the end of the final race, the feature. We don't know anything yet. We can sit here and say, like, oh, this is happening in the points, so Red One needs to do this. Well, we're still in the first race. Second place is not good for Red One's title hopes if Rodrigo, continues his pace, and I see no reason why he wouldn't do that, but everything is speculation until we're, like, nearing the end of the second race, Like, oh, Red One's finishing second here, it's huge title implications. All you have to do is do that again in the second race, and there is no title implications. The implication is that he has won it. The closest thing we have to a battle on the track that could soon happen is... Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. Not that would have been much of a battle anyway. We had Eunice, who had just run his personal best of a 47.7, I think it was, or 48.7. And he was catching up to Deshaun Davis, whose personal best was in the mid-51s. There wasn't going to be a battle. It's just the closest thing we had since, like, lap 2 or 3, because it would have been the first time since then that two cars were near each other on the racetrack. That's like the lowest bar you can set in a motor race. One's grabbed a full second decel, which won't really put him in any risk of Yoshi. It's just going to put the lead even further out of reach. It was hardly in reach at this point in the first place, but it's 6 seconds now, 6.1. This is, suffice to say, I'm finding every single way to butcher this man's name today. I'm just not mentally in it right now. There's not much to be mentally in my defense. Yeah, this is, suffice to say, Regalato's race to lose. Almost 6.5 second lead. Okay, never mind, that came back down. Actually, no, went back up, yeah. 6.5 second lead in hand. 6 laps to go. Even if he loses a second per lap from here, it's not really gonna matter. I think they'll have to pit to get off the to get onto the mediums for the mandatory thing, but I don't imagine that's going to change anything. All that I find myself wondering is where would Ifkinen come out in comparison to them. He's long since made his pit stop, but he's also almost 30 seconds behind the race leader, which would put him about 24 off of second place. He was fighting for third against Yoshi, so really he only needs to find 20 seconds to jump him in the pits. Red One got another decel, presumably coming out of a Scary. Not helping his case. You must have made a mistake on that lap, a 52.8. And obviously the fact that Eunice is now in his, within sight of him, definitely says to me that Knickel made some kind of error on that lap. And that's brought Itkinen relatively close, although Knickel, along with literally everybody else in front of Knickel, has not pit yet, so that's all kind of just, not hearsay, but just kind of ineffectual, we'll say. I don't think it's going to make a blind bit of difference. If Red One has a moment like that, and it gets any worse on him, it will make a difference. There's the decel taken care of. Doesn't do a ton to reduce the lead he has over poor Yoshi. The difference between him and Rodrigo now up to 8 seconds. And slowly counting up at that. Kyle Voiles misses the second chicane, knocks a barrier onto the track, which then gets clobbered by his teammate. As Voiles now goes a lap down, and also almost goes around on the exit of the first Lesmo. Red One has not been getting away from Boryoshi. That lead has stayed at 2 seconds ever since he recovered from his decel. So his lap is not much faster than Yoshi's. Red One is having a bit of an excursion on the exit of Parabolica as he prepares to lap the GTR ahead. I was gonna call him by number. I forgot what his number is. I have never seen it in a race. AJ will box. Edkinen will very clearly get ahead of him. Although he is not really under any threat from the Porsche, so he'll just take a splash of fuel. And yeah. So that settles AJ down to P4. P4? P5. Numbers are hard. Deficit between Yoshi and Hansa less than 2 seconds now. I imagine there may have been some complications putting foils behind them. All 3 leaders are going to have to go in at the end of this lap for the mandatory medium tire. A personal best sector 1 at the end of a fuel run with basically no tire left. Although that second chicane will quickly spoil that away. Leads back to 3 seconds, so... Difference between Itkonen and his team owner is about 22 seconds. I haven't a clue what the pit delta is. But if, and only if, Jonas ends up coming out ahead of Ridwan and doesn't just jam on the brakes to let him go back past to retake second, that could have an implication or two. Rodrigo, Ridwan, Yoshi, all with no choice but to go in right here. Fuel is a slight concern for those two as well. I don't know if 5% is enough to get to the end of the lap. Rodrigo's already on his way out before Ridwan even, comes to a stop. He puts a little bit of gas in the tank. Edkonen is forthcoming, but he will not be taking any spots away from his team owner. He will, however, be fighting his other teammate, Boryoshi, at the braking point. For the first time in 12 laps, cars are near each other on the track for a position, and only a tenth apart at that. Ikonen versus Yoshi. There's no team orders at play. It's not that guy. Red one's up the road by about 3 seconds. And Yoshi hardly even contests. Just pulls back into line before we've even gotten on the brakes for the second chicane. And admittedly, I'd be surprised if we see any challenge from Yoshi. He's probably still having to save fuel to get to the end. Because I don't believe I saw him put any extra fuel in during that stop. And so with a 10-second lead in hand, Rodrigo has done everything he can do in this sprint round. Put it on pole, lead every lap. Fastest lap. And e-brake pull across the line. Red one crosses to do the same. Nearly finds Kyle Boyle's car destroying itself 3-4. Ikonen defeats Yoshi on the undercut of a lifetime from 13 laps ago. It seemed like almost innocuous, is instead what puts Ikonen on the podium at the end. Pinnacle with P5. He will shake the steering wheel. Deshawn's steering wheel is shaking him, as he'll be the last driver to get through Variante Ascari. And once he makes his way out of Parabolica right here, that is the sprint race. Still the feature race. Kepley nowhere in sight, so there will be no 8th car on the track either. Oh, never mind, he was just waiting in the wings, I guess. Yeah, I thought about that. I didn't really even stop to think about who isn't in this race. I never really saw many reasons why not, for most of the drivers that are not here. We are not going to acknowledge it. We are going to not acknowledge it. I mean, I guess that's correct too. I almost forgot about the randomizer. One more formation lap for the road, and Red One is given the pole for the final full. Actually, no, this is the sprint race. That's how long it's been. I've forgotten the flippin' format. This is the sprint race. That was the feature. 10-lap sprint to decide the championship, and if I should remember, all Red One needs is a podium, and the title is his, I think. Helps that the one car that needs to beat him, or the one car he needs to worry about beating him, I should say, is 13 and 4th. Though on the other hand, he doesn't have tail gunners, they're 5 and 6, unless they somehow get a really good start and take the fight directly to the 22 car. They won't really be able to help him much in here. As we're doing the fastest formation lap of the New West, with apparently AJ going for the lead. And I put AJ second and Deshaun Davis third. What a time to be alive. An ECR car is running third, albeit on a formation lap. Kepley will start last, since he, was not here for the first round, or the first half of this race weekend. That's not where you're meant to be, sir. Get back in your place, lowlife. No. Know your place. And the field doubles up kinda weirdly. Did it put AJ on pole? Am I dumb? Gotta put Red One on pole. Okay, no, AJ's just getting ahead to warm his brakes or something. Well, let's do it one more time. Whenever Red One Hamza is ready, the championship does hang in the balance, albeit barely. Whenever that throttle is pinned, we go green one more time. We are green, last time running here in the ARC Group 3 Masters, and they're already 3 wide behind the race leader. AJ running for his life, as Deshaun Davis immediately gets overcome by Boar Yoshi. Yoshi's going for everything here. He has jumped from 5th to 2nd right off the race start. I said he wasn't going to be close enough to help his teammate, but he got the exact race start that I prophesized, and he is up there. Regal Auto gets ahead of Deshaun, but obviously loses his spot to Yoshi, so he remains in that 4th position. Both drivers around AJ immediately collect time penalties, so AJ will be up 2nd by the end of this lap, I reckon. There's chaos in the back. Kevin Kepler with a big thwack on the inside wall. I just spit everywhere calling that. Well, that's going to put him behind Voiles, to say the least. It looked like Deshaun Davis messed up the the first Lesmo, and that just, everybody had to scatter to avoid it. That's what it looked like anyway. It was kind of in the background of shots, so I couldn't really tell very easily what was actually happening. There are the D-cell pens. AJ up to second with that for the time being, but Yoshi is absolutely going to be close enough to try and take it back. He has a little bit of threat from Regalado, but not a lot. I'll try and ride on board with the 22, see what the Nissan driver sees, if they're about to fight for second place ahead of him or not. It looks like not. Could still yet see something brewing into the second chicane, though. As now Yoshi is much closer with a strong exit from T2. Will the Aston pull alongside? There he goes. Quick dodge to the left. Knickel brave on the brakes. They make, I think, some contact. Oh yeah, a lot of contact. And Yoshi is shoved into the sand, and he's going to lose the spot to Regalado in the process. Nissan will now take a crack at the Canadian driver. 5 different nationalities in the top 5 of this race. I just noticed that. They were the top 5 before as well, but that's besides the point. So actually, Yoshi is going to go for a move. He got a really strong exit from the second Lesmo, excuse me. They are at a dead heat on the brakes for Ascari. This camera is awful, but Yoshi is thwarted. Now that you could tell from the camera trying to be all cinematic and not actually showing us the cars, and an awful Ascari is going to not help. Let's see if the Peruvian driver has a chance at the 47 car. Not in the Parabolica. That's not the place to get it done. And he probably doesn't need me to tell him that. AJ wide on the exit. If you're going to be wide on the exit at any corner here, it might as well be Parabolica. Regalado darn near bump drafting the Canadian driver. Now we're going to have a contest of the brake pads at turn 1. Japan versus Japan in terms of car makes. Inside lane for Regalado, and that is textbook. So the game is on now. Regalado has removed his obstacles. He need only gain 3.5 seconds to try and do something about the Aussie in the lead. You can't completely ignore the other cars behind him, though. They haven't lost him by any means. All 4 drivers in a row taking their turn to run over the sausage curb of doom at the second chicane, which the Sean Davis just got a massive plate full of that. Tire off on the second Lesmo will not help AJ Knickel's chances. On board with Yoshi, he probably will not have a play out of Ascari, though. And even if he does, I don't think it's really the best place to take it, unless it's down to the last couple of laps. You're better off getting him on exit, taking him into Parabolica, or playing the really long game and getting him on the exit of Parabolica and taking them to turn 1. He did get a strong exit off Parabolica, as foretold. He's going to be forced the long way round, however. And that was never likely to happen. Oh, even he's going to get a bit of a taste of the AstroTurf out there. Ikonen has joined the party up here. AJ forcing Yoshi technically off the track limits. Oh, he gets into his rear quarter. Well saved from AJ. I don't know if stewards are going to like that one. That was clumsy at best, almost looked intentional. That's the kind of thing I do in an AI car if they're really getting on my nerves. That is not what a race leader needs. With just how close the field is behind Rodrigo at the moment, it's got a little bit further apart after the weird game of chicken that AJ and Gore just played. But a half-second decel, and also missing the second chicane by a bit, isn't what he needs. All he needs is a really bad decel, and he could be under threat of losing multiple places, especially if the battle between him and Rodrigo takes too long. they'll lose each other both time doing that, and that could give any of these three an opportunity to do something really funny. This half-second decel might just about put the Nissan within striking distance by the time we get to turn 2 again. Turn 2? Turn 1 again. It's under 2 seconds. 1.8, 1.7 even. There's the decel line. He was already losing time on exit, just from Rigo Auto making the turn better. Now it's going to be about 7/10, 6/10 on the brakes for Parabolica. Now it's going to obviously equal out because we're all at the same speed again. But 6/10, that is slipstream range and then some for the 22 car. This is a pivotal moment in this race. If I'm Red One, honestly, Rodrigo can have it. Red One needs only to focus on making sure he doesn't lose any more places. He could maybe, you know, call a team order with Yoshi or Edkanen, but AJ Kaneko will not be so contrite. AJ has zero reason to give in to that. Six and a half tenths as we break for the second chicane. Yoshi tried to take a peek at the 47 car, and AJ Kaneko is going to miss. Psychological warfare works to a T, and Yoshi is going to get up to third. That is big news for any Rid 1 Hamza fans on the track, believe it or not. On the track, in the audience, or the track, I guess. Obviously, AJ is still there. He is not going to disappear that quickly, even with a missed chicane. Does the Canadian driver go for it? He's going for it. He's going to force himself to the inside. Super late braking. He barely stays on the racetrack. And that is a go for broke maneuver at Ascari. Working. Somehow working. But we have bigger fish to fry. Rodrigo has his prey in view. And only about 2.5 tenths separate them. I think this is curtains for the 14 cars race lead right here. That GTR is very quick with slipstream. There's also another battle behind them as well. But this is the battle for the lead, and potentially for the championship, depending on how things go. That is a late maneuver to the middle of the circuit. Rid 1 has nowhere to go. Yoshi is forced the long way around at the chicane, and AJ Kaneko will park the bus at the exit, and around goes the 41. Darn near, he manages to about keep it facing in the right direction, but that's gonna put him out of the contest. Instead, the 46 will claim that spot. There's a battle for the lead. Rid 1 is not done. Super late braking, bounces the curb. The inside curb is a little kinder than the outside one. What is that maneuver, Rid 1? My word. The 14 car. His conquest is not over. He stays in the lead, and this battle is somehow not losing him any time because AJ, well, now has a half-second decel, but he's just been preventing the other Aston Martins from joining the battle. I don't know if they've been losing themselves too much time doing... Oh, yeah, they have. That's a second down. But they're still gaining because these three are also slinging it. And Yoshi is back. Yoshi is back up to these two after nearly losing the car about a minute ago. AJ's run is over. That half-second decel going to put him down to 5th, and it's going to be difficult for the Supra with its slightly lower engine output to get back up to ahead of them. And we are going to drag race very different lines through Parabolica as we cross the line to start lap 8, or lap 7 of the actual race. They do a little dance, they switch lanes. Grab your partner and, I don't know, force Rodrigo nearly off the racetrack. Who had the better traction? That is easily the 14 with the better traction. So Ridwan will continue to cling desperately. He doesn't even need to cling on to anything. He just needs to stay in second, but Ridwan is not the kind, clearly, who will get complacent. He just needs to be mindful that he doesn't let it cost him more. The last thing he wants is to try too hard to win the race and send his Aston Martin spiraling off in the general direction of Autodromo Imola. I don't know what direction that is, but it's probably not the direction he wants his car to go. He does have, you know, rear support. He does finally have his FR teammates at 3 and 4, with AJ Knickel finally overthrown. But none of that will help him if he ends up way off the track on the exit of turn 1. If he turns himself across the front of right Regalado and ends up facing the wrong way, team orders ain't gonna help him any. We battle too wide down to Parabolica. Still, both drivers leaving the racetrack, in Rodrigo's case, to try and find a put-away maneuver. But Ridwan will not be struck out. The overspeed is immense from the 22, but it's not the first time that's been the case. They make contact, and Ridwan has to save the car. That's exactly the thing that I warned about. He needed to not do... He needed to not jeopardize things. Somehow, despite the chaos, I think Rodrigo actually slowed down because he realized he moved under the braking and didn't want to win the race that way, is my guess. Because there's no way that with how slow Ridwan was going, he didn't gain massive time right there. But suddenly those 3rd and 4th place cars look just a little bit closer in their mirrors. And I say their mirrors because Rodrigo would have to worry about them more than Ridwan does because they're Ridwan's team, not his. Rodrigo with no fire support, Alexander Brown nowhere to be seen, Kyle Voiles on his way through Parabolica and nearly losing control of the race car. Under 3/10, all Ridwan needs is a strong Parabolica, and that V12 motor can carry him back to the race lead quicker than you can say Aston Martin. But that is, in fact, not a great Parabolica. It doesn't have to be amazing, though. Slipstream will do a lot at this front straightaway. A second back to Itkonen for 3rd as we begin the penultimate lap of the season, and the race lead is still in the air. Not the exit Ridwan was looking for, though. That is going to put it out of reach for this lap, barring unforeseen circumstances, excuse me. Only down to 3.5 tenths. That's not close enough to make an overtake if you've got even a little bit of brain in your head. Slipstream is the only reason this is even a race at this point. Rodrigo is just oppressive at every single turn, but the slipstream and the engine of that Aston Martin is the only thing keeping this race out of the formality zone. And we're going to see it in action again. That lead's going to be down to less than 4 tenths by the time we break for Ascari, even though Ridwan made a very mediocre Lesmo 2. But all it takes is one. The villain's only got to win once, as the TV trope says. All Ridwan needs is one good corner exit before an important straightaway, and the race win, and therefore definitively the championship, can be in his grasp. They are actually getting close to lapping Kyle Voiles. This is unbelievable scenes. He's not going to find it, though. He cannot compete with the cornering grip of that GTR. It doesn't seem matter what he does. At this point, Rodrigo's close enough. He's almost getting a toe off of his teammate. The one way that Kyle Puig could possibly help Ridwan, or could possibly help Rodrigo in this race. Final chicane. What? Final lap for chicane for the final time. And that is not a massive run. It's going to be another case of down to 3.5 tenths. Voiles just bails out of the way of the two lead cars. Rodrigo has just under 3 tenths in hand as we get on the brakes for the second chicane. And it's another just unstoppable set of turns for the 22 car. And Ridwan is wide at the first Lesmo. I think that's curtains. But it ultimately doesn't matter, because Jonas is 1.2 back. Yoshi disappeared, probably got messed with by Voiles or something or other. Ascari for the last time. And it would take a lot. We almost had a lot, though. Rodrigo had to hang on to the car, but this is not a long enough straightaway. Oh, he's letting off, the cheeky bugger. Around the outside goes Ridwan. He runs out of grip out there, though. So even though Rodrigo literally slowed down to make it look like a race at the line, the 22 car will sweep at Monza, but Ridwan is going to win the championship with a pair of second place finishes. Eunice will claim the final podium spot again. Yoshi, AJ Knuckle, but only barely behind the latter, or the former. A P6 finish for Deshaun Davis. He's going to beat 2 cars. Kepley had his very early mistake and manages to avoid last position. And Voiles is doing donuts at the starting line. He accidentally crossed, I reckon. One more Parabolica left in this ARC Group 3 Masters season. Take us home, Kevin Kepley. That will do it. And fittingly, it's Alexis that's the last car to come across, because, as most people in the server already know, the next series is Super GT. There's the checkered flag. We are done here. Super GT starts this time next week. Even though it seems we'll be doing it without GR Racing nor Nuclear Fusion Racing on the grid whatsoever. But that wraps things up for Group 3 Masters. The server has already ended. So with that in mind, that is it from me. Shoutouts go to DIVEBOMB, our title sponsor, the motorsports news outlet across pretty much every platform of social media, and the Racing Rats, our Assetto Corsa modding partners that keep our various Assetto Corsa series working smoothly. But I am done here. And so is Group 3 Masters. Same time next week, we'll be back with Super GT and the first round at, I believe, Suzuka. But for those 7 days, goodbye.